Hi, Marley. Sorry we couldn't be there. Sorry to hear that you're sick. I thought one thing I could do is read you a story. Some of my favorite stories when I was a kid was from the book Winnie the Pooh. And we just bought a new Winnie the Pooh book just before Christmas. So I thought I might read you the story about Winnie the Pooh when Pooh and Piglet go hunting and nearly catch a woozle. The piglet lived in a very grand house in the middle of a beech tree, and the beech tree was in the middle of the forest, and Piglet lived in the middle of the house. Next to his house was a piece of broken board that said, Trespassers W on it. When Christopher Robin asked Piglet what that meant, he said it was his grandfather's name, and he had been in the family for a long time. Christopher Robin said he couldn't be called Trespassers W, and Piglet said, yes, you will, because his grandfather was, and it was short for Trespassers Will, which was short for Trespassers William. And his grandfather had two names in case he lost one, Trespassers after his uncle, and William after Trespassers. I've got two names, said Christopher Robin carelessly. Well, there you are. That proves it, said Piglet. One fine winter's day, when Piglet was brushing away the snow in front of the house, he happened to look up, and there was Winnie the Pooh. Pooh was walking round and around in a circle, thinking of something else, and when Piglet called to him, he just went on walking. Hello, said Piglet. What are you doing? I'm hunting, said Pooh. Hunting what? Tracking something, said Winnie the Pooh very mysteriously. Tracking what? Said Piglet, coming closer. That's just what I asked myself. I asked myself, what? What do you think you'll answer? I shall have to wait until I catch up with it, said Winnie the Pooh. Now, look here, he pointed to the ground in front of him. What do you see there? Tracks, said Piglet. Paw marks. He gave a little squeak of excitement. Oh, Pooh, what do you think? You think it's a woozle? It may be, said Pooh. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. You never really know with paw marks. With these words, he went on tracking, and Piglet, after watching him for a minute or two, ran after him. Winnie the Pooh had come to a sudden stop and was bending over the tracks in a puzzled sort of way. What's the matter? Asked Piglet. It's a funny thing, said Bear, but there seem to be two animals now. This, whatever it was, has been joined by another, whatever it is, and the two of them are now proceeding in company. Would you mind coming with me, Piglet, in case they turn out to be hostile animals? Piglet scratched his ear in a nice sort of way and said that he had nothing to do until Friday and would be delighted to come, in case it was a woozle. You mean in case it's really two woozles, said Winnie the Pooh. And Piglet said that anyhow he had nothing to do until Friday, so off they went together. There was a small spiny of larch trees just there, and it seemed as if the two woozles, if that is what they were, had been going round and around this spiny. So round this spiny went Pooh and Piglet after them. Piglet passing the time by telling Pooh what his grandfather Trespassers W had done to remove stiffness after tracking, and how his grandfather Trespassers W had suffered in his later years from shortness of breath and other matters of interest. And Pooh, wondering what a grandfather was like, and perhaps this was two grandfathers they were after now, and if so, whether he would be allowed to take one home and keep it, and what Christopher Robin would say, and still the tracks went on in front of them. Suddenly, Winnie the Pooh stopped and pointed excitedly in front of him. Look! What? Said Piglet with a jump. And then, to show he hadn't been frightened, he jumped up and down once or twice in an exercising sort of way. "The tracks," said Pooh. "A third animal has joined the other two." "Pooh!" cried Piglet, "do you think it's another Woozel?" "No," said Pooh, "because it makes different marks. It is either two Woozles and one, as it might be, Whistle, or two, as it might be, Whistles and one, if so it is, Woozel. Let us continue and follow them." So they went on, feeling just as anxious now in case the three animals in front of them were of hostile intent. And Piglet wished very much that his grandfather T.W. were there instead of elsewhere, and Pooh thought how nice it would be if they met Christopher Robin suddenly, but quite accidentally, and only because he liked Christopher Robin so much. And then, all of a sudden, Winnie the Pooh stopped again and licked the tip of his nose in a cooling manner, and was feeling more hot and anxious than ever in his life. There were now 4 animals in front of them. "Do you see, Piglet? Look at their tracks. 3, as it were, Woozles, and 1, as it was, Whistle. Another Woozle has joined them." So it seemed to be there were tracks crossing over each other here, getting muddled up with each other there, but quite plainly, every now and then, the tracks of 4 sets of paws. "I think," said Piglet, when he had licked his nose too, and found that it brought very little comfort, "I think that I have just remembered something. I have just remembered something that I forgot to do yesterday, and I shan't be able to do tomorrow. So I suppose I really ought to go back to my house by now." "Well, do it this afternoon, and I'll come with you," said Pooh. "Oh, it isn't the sort of thing that can be done in the afternoon," said Piglet quickly. "It's a very particular morning thing that has to be done in the morning, and if possible, between the hours of, what time would you say it was?" "About 12, said Winnie the Pooh, looking at the sun. "Between, as I was saying, the hours of 12 and 12:05. So really, dear Pooh, if you'll excuse me—" "What's that?" Pooh looked up at the sky, and then, as he heard the whistle again, he looked up into the branches of the big oak tree, and then he saw a friend of his. "Why, it's Christopher Robin," he said. "And then you'll be all right," said Piglet. "You'll be quite safe with him. Goodbye," and he trotted off as quickly as he could, very glad to be out of all the danger again. Christopher Robin came slowly down the tree. "Silly old bear," he said, "what were you doing? First you went around the spiny twice by yourself, and then Piglet ran after you and went round and round again together, and then you were just going round and round the 4th time." "Wait a minute," said Winnie the Pooh, holding up his paw. He sat down and thought, in the most thoughtful way he could think. Then he fitted his paw into one of the tracks, and then he scratched his nose twice and stood up. "Yes," said Winnie the Pooh. "I see now," said Winnie the Pooh. "I have been foolish and deluded," he said. "I am a bear of no brain at all." "You're the best bear in all the world," said Christopher Robin soothingly. "Am I?" said Pooh hopefully. And then he brightened up suddenly. "Anyhow," he said, "it is nearly luncheon time." So they went home for it. That's the end of the story of the Woozles. Bye for now.